sit down and really think about, why do you want to do this? What do you hope to get out of this? What do you want your child to get out of this? What do you want to avoid when you're doing this? And it's important for you to write those things down. Write down your why, write down your purpose in doing this. And it might be a good idea to print it out, and because there are going to be days when you're going to have to go back and look at why you want to do this, because it is not all Maria von Trapp and, you know, the Sound of Music. You're not going to go out in the hills and sing. There's going to be days when you're going to want to pull your hair out. And if you have that reason why written out somewhere that you can refer back to, look at it and go, okay, guys, mommy needs 5 minutes. Y'all go play in your rooms. And you go back and you just refocus and say, okay, this is why I'm doing this. I want my child to do X, Y, Z. I want to be here for X, Y, A, B, C. So knowing your why is very important. And I know that that's kind of a big buzz thing right now with, you know, everything. Why do you want to lose weight? Why are you starting this business? Why have you, but I think the reason why they do that is because it's important to go back to that foundational reason as to what's your purpose in all this, and write it out. Because like I said, there will be days when you will wonder, what are you doing? And are you screwing up your kids? And you're going to have to go back and look and go, okay, nope, I've got this. I can do this. So, and it's really great if your significant other is on board with you. I have had a couple friends in the past that their husbands were not on board with them doing this. And so they really could not, they couldn't go to him and say, today was an awful day. It's great if if your husband is on board with you, or your significant other is on board with you while you do this. But if not, you need that friend, that you need that other mom friend that's a homeschool mom that you can call and say, today was a rough day. And I need to talk out my feelings about today without judgment, without, well, then just put them back in school. That'll solve all your problems if you just put them back in school. Because that's what one of my friends, her husband, said every time. If she said anything negative about schooling her kids, he was like, well, put them back in school. You know where the school is. Sign them up tomorrow. And you don't have to worry about this anymore. So know your why. And I think it's, you know, it might also be a good thing to sit down with your kids, especially if they're old enough. I mean, I think that if they're in first grade, they're probably old enough to talk about it and go, okay, you know, what do you think about this? And why do you think we should homeschool? And what do you want this year to look like? Ask them, engage them in, because this is a part of their life history too. And so they need to have some ownership of it as well. So getting your why lined up with their why, and that way whenever y'all are having hard days, the nice thing about homeschooling is you can say, forget it, we're going to the park today, we're watching a movie, we're not doing this today. That's a nice thing. But if those days happen too often, then you can go back and say, remember, we wrote all this down, why did we decide to start this? So knowing your why is very important.
Okay. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that too. On your dashboard, I hope y'all printed it out, but if not, you can see we have a sheet here called Big Why. And it is basically, why do you want to homeschool? The first block here is, what do you want the homeschool experience? What do you want in your homeschool experience? What do you think, like those little memes that come out, says, this is what I do, this is what my family thinks I do, this is what, you know, my boss thinks I do, those things. What do you think you want your homeschool to look like? And if you don't have one of these right now, just get a piece of paper and draw a cross, and in the first thing, write down what you think you want in your homeschool. What do you want in the homeschool experience? That's the first one. The second one is, what do you want to avoid in your homeschool? Maybe your kid has been bullied in school and you're trying to avoid him having to be bullied. Maybe you have sent your child to school and they take hours and hours on their homework. So what do you want to avoid? Because if you have hours and hours on homework, you might as well just have them home and teach them at the first time, because otherwise it's just a huge colossal waste of time. And then we've got this third one down here is, what are you not willing to do in homeschooling your children? What are your non-negotiables? What do you say, okay, this is something that I will never do? And don't say never, because sometimes some things happen, but I don't want to have this go completely unschool. I don't want to have my child sitting at the table for 8 hours a day. So those things, write down what things you do not want, what you're not willing to do in homeschooling. And then on the fourth one over here is, what will make your family raving fans of homeschool? What do you think your kids would love, 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 love if you did, or your husband would love, love, love if you did in the homeschool? Maybe your kid likes to draw. Okay, so I'm going to put down, add lots of art to my curriculum. I had one friend who, her child goes to public school, but he would read the reading lesson for the day, and he would fight the teacher, everything, on trying to read the lesson. And finally his mom told the teacher, just let him draw a picture of what it is after he's done reading, and he will read all day long so he can draw that picture. So that sort of thing, you can use your creativity. You can use things, it doesn't have to be in a book. You can, go on some of these blogs. We have a couple bloggers that are going to be talking to us. Sometimes there's ideas in there of things that they're doing that never even occurred to you. There's sometimes things that you hear somebody just mention and you're like, wait, what was that? And those things, you can use those things to ramp up your homeschool to the point where your family is just, you never have to worry about your kid talking to the next door neighbor who goes to government school and saying, oh, well, you're missing out on everything. You need to go to school with us because you're missing out. And while not understanding, because they've never been, sometimes these kids really want to go. But if you've got it to the point where your kids are raving fans of your school, they're going to go, oh no, you need to get homeschooled. And I've had that happen with a couple of kids. And especially as they get older, they realize, oh yeah, no, I don't want that. So those are the four corners. The first one is, what do you want in your homeschool experience? What do you want to avoid in your homeschool experience? The third one is, what are you willing to do? What are you unwilling to do for your kids' homeschool? What do you not want to do? What will you make your family raving fans of homeschool? And then right here, this little gap between all of them is what homeschool is. The homeschool fills the gap. You want it to be touching all four of those so that your family is happy, so that you're happy. And that's something that I really think is an important way to look at this, because I never did this. And like Stacy was saying, there are days when it is so hard to get the schoolwork done. And you just want to cry at the end of the day. And sometimes you go hide in the closet and you do cry because your kids are little putzes that day. Sometimes it's wonderful and you just hear the angels going, whoa. But most days are not angel days. But you do get to a point where after, you're halfway through the school year or something, and your kid will walk up to you and say something that that you taught them or that they read, and it just surprises you, and you're like, whoa, okay, I guess they are listening. But those days are not every day. And excuse me a moment. Hobbs, go somewhere else. Come on. My cat, he's decided he wants to play and he's biting my legs. So we have this form here. Wanted to cover a lot of that because I really feel like that's the biggest thing. The other thing that you need to think about is there's a lot of homeschoolers that are Christian or that are Jewish or have their religion involved with their homeschool. Majority of homeschoolers in the past have been Christian based. Because most of for some reason, that's just who ended up doing the homeschooling. The community
started out with a lot of missionaries.
Missionaries started, yeah, and so we ended up with a lot of the groups that you'll find are very Christian oriented. So if you are not Christian or you don't want to have, you want to have more of a secular education, you'll need to find groups that are not as Christian, because some of those Christian groups have some really, really strong Christians that that's what they talk about. And if you don't feel comfortable with that, you are going to need to kind of look around for a different group. But nowadays, there's so many kids out there that are being pulled out of government school for non-religious reasons. A lot of them some of them being pulled out because of politics that are, the way that they're being taught to view the world, and their parents don't like that. That was one of the reasons that I did homeschool my children. I didn't really particularly do it for religious reasons. I did it because I didn't want my kids indoctrinated with stuff that I didn't believe. And that's just getting worse and worse. But some people I know this year, people are going to be looking at homeschooling because they're afraid to put their children back in school because of the COVID. And that's something that when you design your purpose, you need to keep those things in mind, because that plays into your purpose. If your purpose is to make sure that Jesus is in your child's heart and they're doing everything that you want them to do for their religion, then that needs to go into your purpose. If you are doing something that is a more secular situation and you want to make sure that they are reflecting the views that you have, or that you have certain things that you want them to do. Now, you don't want to do so there's dreams and goals, and your child will have their own dreams and goals. And some parents can sometimes feel like, okay, my kid is in high school and I want them to be a doctor, or I want them to be a lawyer. And your kid is like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do something else. I want to be a pop star. Oh no. Which actually is what my daughter wants to do. But your job as a parent is not to force them to do what you want. And that's, I think, where Stacy was coming from with the sit your kids down at 6 or 7. What do they want? Some kids know at that age what exactly they want. Some kids don't. And so you kind of have to guide them on that. But you want your purpose to reflect not only your view and where you want your kids to go, but where they think they want to go as well. Because you got to have buy-in from those kids. If you don't have buy-in from the kids, then you're not going to have the cooperation that you would like to have. You may not have the cooperation you have anyway, because when they get to be teenagers, 9 or 10 years old, they get really uncooperative for some reason. I don't know.
I think in 8th grade, you kind of need to, in 8th grade, 9th grade, you need to reevaluate, what they want out of this. And, it's a hard thing to let go as a parent, because we see our kids and we see strengths that we think would be really good for them to head down this road, and that they would be successful at it, but that might not be what's in their heart. And so it is a hard thing to let your dreams for your kid go and let them take over and have ownership of their own dreams. And crash or fail, we learn more by failures than we do by successes. So sometimes they have to crash and fail, and that's okay. But if you reevaluate your whole why again whenever they're getting into high school age, it might have changed from whenever they were in third grade
Yeah.
or fourth grade, whatever.
You might even, I know a lot of parents, especially when they're starting homeschool, they start out and they go, okay, or at least when I started homeschool, I was like, okay, this is kindergarten. I can probably teach my kid kindergarten. And so we're going to try this for a year and see how it works. And so every year I would go, well, first grade. Okay, what do they got to know for first grade? They got to be able to read. They got to be able to do math. Okay, I can do that. So as they get older, you have gone through the curriculums with them a lot of times, and you're kind of on the same page of where they're at. And so you know what they've done and what they can do, but you want to encourage them to think about what they want. But you want to kind of look at it yearly in the beginning, because sometimes people are afraid, oh my goodness, I'm not going to be able to teach this child all the way through high school. And that's something that you grow into as you get to be a little bit older on the homeschooling journey. I do want to say that when I was growing up, I played the flute, and I did some other things, and there were times when I wanted to do something. I wanted to go for it. I wanted to be really strong at it. And my parents said, oh no, you know how few people ever make it to that? You need to have this. You need to do this. You need to have this backup plan. And the backup plan ends up being the plan. I want to encourage you as parents not to squish your kids' dreams. And no matter how silly they are or how silly you think they are, there are people that are not as smart as your child. There are people not as cool or not as talented as your child that do whatever it is that they want to do, that they're dreaming of. There are also people who are more talented that don't make it, whereas the less talented people do. So it's one of those things where if they want it, they have to work for it, and they're going to need to work for it. But that's when, like Stacy was saying, about 8th grade or so is when they start figuring that stuff out. Some of them, my daughter knew at 12 what she wanted to do. My cat is now playing on my computer on my side over here. She knew exactly what she wanted to do. My son has no idea. He's 18 years old, and he doesn't really know. He's got 6 things he wants to do rather than 1 thing. So we kind of got to guide him, and we kind of got to put our foot down and say, okay, you really need to do this in order to get along one of these tracks. And so there's scattered kids and there's focused kids. And that's part of your purpose as they get older. When they're young, most kids are pretty scattered. They don't know what they want. And so your job as a parent teacher is to give them a bunch of different samples. So like they're at the Sam's Club on a Saturday, and you want to try out a whole bunch of different things so that they have an idea of what works for them, what doesn't work for them. Okay, I hate this. If you hate the sight of blood, you don't want to go into doctor. You don't want to go into being a nurse. Or if you hate drawing, then interior design might not be for you. Or maybe it is, and you have to overcome that hatred of drawing. So that's one of those things where as they get older, their purpose kind of takes over. But in the beginning, like Stacy said, you really want to have a defined thought of what you need to do, because that is something that you're going to need to go back to, because it does get frustrating sometimes. And sometimes the kids just, my son was bad about this. He would just, if he didn't want to do something, he would just lay down in the middle of the floor and just refuse to do anything. And that can be very frustrating for a parent. Most of the time he didn't do that, but there were times, and it happens always on the day that's you're just having the worst day to start with. And I don't know if they just pick that up and run with it, or if that's something that they just somehow ends up happening that day. It's kind of the Murphy's Law day. If something's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong, and it's going to go wrong all across the board. The cat's throwing up, the kids knocked something over in the kitchen and broke glass. The other one over here doesn't want to do his math. All of that stuff it piles on you and it layers up. And so you want to make sure that while things are going well, you're layering good things. So you may want to keep not just this why sheet, but you may want to keep another sheet somewhere that, or a little journal that you can write down, hey, this happened today, that was awesome. And just, just straight write down good things that happen, so that when you do end up frustrated and want to pull your hair out, you can go back to something and go, okay, oh, well, this happened. Well, this is not a complete waste of time homeschooling these kids, because they are learning, they are loving me, they are, this challenge was overcome here. And I encourage you to have a couple of moms that also homeschool, preferably, that you can turn to, because it does make a big difference. Husbands want to solve problems. They do not necessarily just want to listen to you. So if you bring them a complaint or a problem, like that one lady's husband, well, put him back in school, that solves the problem. That's not really helpful. And so even if you do have a husband that's on board, find yourself a clan or a group of ladies that, or parents that homeschool, that you can just blow off steam with, and they're not going to hold it against you. They're not going to think you're a horrible person. You're not going to judge you on your teaching abilities because your kid threw a tantrum that day. So those are things that are really, really important. And one of the best ways to do that, I know it's hard to make mom friends sometimes. One of the best ways to do that is to go into an organization and volunteer with other people. And then especially if you can arrange it where they can have retreats or something like that, where you really get to know the people without the other distractions of children and spouses and, oh, I got to go do the wash and the dishes when I get home and that sort of thing. Just try and get some real one-on-one time to get to know other parents, other moms, because it makes such a huge difference as you go forward in this journey.
There are 2.5 million homeschoolers in 2019.
Wow.
So
there'd be more. It may double this year.
Out there, sometimes you got to search for them.
Yeah, especially if you're in a smaller town, sometimes you have to search. Now, what I wanted to do in the next 15 or so minutes is bring up some people. I don't even know if y'all are on here or not. If you're on, just wave to me, because I can't see your pictures, and you're probably in your jammies. But just do a quick wave. I can still see Ellie and I on there, but I can't see everybody else. So if you're on there, wave to me, and we will. I want to do a little bit of calling and see, calling on you, pull you up as a speaker, and just say, hey, what do you think your biggest why do you want to homeschool? Why are you even thinking about it? What is your initial purpose? So let's go ahead and start with Illy and I, because I can see her and I know she's ready to go. We're going to ask to unmute you, and so okay, I think you did. Okay.
Hello, you can listen to me?
Yep, you're good. Good, we can hear you.
Thank you. Well, I want to doing homeschooling with my daughter because she have health issues. It's not good idea she coming back to public school. So this is my main reason.
Okay, awesome. So she's so you're worried about her getting sick, or she's missed a lot of school because of illness?
Well, she have a lot of coming appointment with doctors, and when you're in public school, or they set only a limit of the day off from the school. And also her immune system is very quick and double, and so she needs to stay more at home. Right. This is my main concern with her.
Yeah. And is she on board with starting homeschooling, you think, or does she want to?
Yeah, she's excited. She started looking some curriculum on christianbook.com.
Okay.
And she tried to plan it with me. I let her planning what classes she needs for elective or something like that.
Very cool. Very cool. So the public schools can be really, really cranky if your child has an ongoing health issue. They really don't want to let you go, even for braces or anything like that, to get your appointments in. And then you don't have as many days off as you could. And if you do have them off, then everybody's closed. So it does make it really annoying if you have somebody who has health issues. But if they're excited about doing the homeschooling, that's awesome. Now, do you think you're gonna try and do the last 3 years yourself, or do you think it's gonna be 1 year and then maybe it's gonna work?
Well, we see what happens. We'll see if we can fix, we can stay on homeschooling, or she wanna go back to public school.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I would suggest, because I know Stacy had to deal with this when her son wanted to go in. He'd been homeschooled his whole life. When he wanted to go into public school, there was all kinds of testing they made him do. And I know another girl, it took forever to get that testing done. It was almost like 6 months doing the schoolwork before they would even say, oh, you're in this class, because she had to be tested. So as you're doing your schoolwork and you choose what you want to do with your curriculum, kind of take a look and see, okay, ninth grade is U.S. history and 10th grade is world history and that sort of thing. Kind of take a look and see, and try and keep your curriculum along those same guidelines, and make sure that you keep a really good track of what you do teach her, because not only will you need it for if she decides to go back to school, but you'll want it for the transcript eventually, because in high school it makes a big difference. You need to have that transcript.
Yes, I'm trying to look in about curriculum for math, because I'm teaching right now on regular school, a Montessori school, but my strong is not math. so so I need find any curriculum help with that, with math and grammar, because I think grammar is one of the subjects for Texas, right?
Yes, they need to learn. They need to be taught grammar, spelling, reading, and math, and good citizenship. And high school is the best time to teach the good citizenship. Take them, and even for take them with you when you vote. Take them with you when you go to meetings at the courthouse or whatever you have to do if you can. Those are ways to teach good citizenship. In high school, there are things that they can get involved with, 4-H or speech and debate type stuff, where they can go to mock trials and they can do things like that. And it's a way to get out. It's also a way to get to know other people. The nice thing is, even if she has health issues, hopefully when the COVID's over, if she's not susceptible to catching the COVID, then you can still meet with people. And if it's over, then you can still go to co-ops and things like that, and have hopefully have some help with the math and things like that. But I will tell you, if not, there are colleges all over the place. If you go to allinonehomeschool.com, they have a lot of their curriculum is actually college classes that are taught by the college. You're just basically auditing the class rather than getting the graduation for it, but it means it's also free. So my kids took Spanish 1 year from University of Alabama, I think it was, because they have their Spanish curriculum online. And I know MIT and Harvard and all those schools have their curriculums are online. You just don't get the prestige of saying I went to Harvard. But you can still get that education, and you can get it for free. So that's really cool. And
so if she decide go back to school on the next year, what the school asked me, they asked me for any papers or any record from this year?
Can you take that, Stacy?
Yes, they're going to ask you for what you taught her this year, and then they will probably make her take this. Is it the STAR test they're taking now? Still, the STAR test for this year, for this past year that she was homeschooled, and make sure she can pass it before they readmit her back into public school.
Okay, so it's a good idea practice on that, on the test, STAR test.
I would
And
start actually try and practice the SAT stuff and the TSI stuff, because the STAR test, I know for this year has been suspended, or this past year,
Yeah, this year is suspended, yes.
2019 to 2020, but next year it might not be. So it just depends. But yeah, try and you can go online and find the
past
curriculum
test.
that they're using for the STAR test and like a sample test. What was that, Stacy, you were going to say?
Yeah, that's the TEA website has the past test online.
Yeah. So you can kind of go through
Okay.
and see. That way, at least you've covered what she's going to cover. But at 16 or 17, wherever she's a sophomore, it's almost time to start thinking about the PSAT and the SAT and taking those if she's going to be college bound. If she's not, then that's not a big deal, but it's something. I see Peggy is on now. We're going to have her talking in about 10 minutes, and she's going to talk a little bit about special education. So the big why is something that we have going on as for this 45-minute segment, and we want to make sure that y'all understand that your purpose is something that's going to be, you really need to take it to heart, and also be really clear with yourself so that you don't beat yourself up on stuff that you never thought about. If you can think about a lot of the different directions you want to go in, it will make it much easier to stick with that direction. What is it? The Wayne Gretzky says you miss all of the shots that you don't take. And so you want to make sure that you know where the goal is so that you can continue to progress towards it. Even if you're not progressing fast, if you're progressing every day. We had a speaker on last night who told me that her daughter, she's a special needs, and she can only do 4 or 5 math problems at a time. That's all she can stand, and then she has a meltdown. So she's doing 4. You don't want to push it to that 5 if you can help it, but she tries every day, just a little bit more, just get a little bit more. And that's how you master something anyway, is you study every day and you do it over time, and over time you become a master at whatever it is you're learning. And that's what you want for your kids. We used to do for testing, instead of worrying about, okay, they failed this test. Well, my kids took the test until they got an 80 on it, which is what they do in K-12 and the charter schools anyway, is you have to retake those tests until you get a B. And so I just did that, because if they can retake the test, yes, they failed the first time, but they'll know what they failed on, so they have to go back and study it. And then they'll go back and they'll take that test again, and they do better. And each time they go, they do better.